So our common goal is to catalyze a new economic system, but why? Why our economic system must change now? My proposition is that because today, within our current economic practices, the relationship between our objective sense of value and our subjective sense of values has disintegrated. And so what? Why is this a problem? The problem is that for the last 30 years, the way we have been doing business has become more and more not personal. And the outcome from 40 years of doing not personal business is what I refer to employment frustration or from employee income stagnation. And what I mean is that income possibilities for generating income and growing our income has been stagnant, but not for everyone. Income inequality in the United States has been rising since 1970s, and here we see three different groups arranged by income. The bottom 20%, the middle 60%, and the top 1%. And clearly we see that there's not much difference that the first two groups, but the top 1%, we have in 1979 350,000 and in 2007 $1.3 million. This is the graphic picture of those numbers. Here at the bottom we see the middle 60% and the bottom 20%. Income has remained flat throughout all these years, and the higher brackets of income, the range of increase has been really dramatic. So what we're going to see now is a depiction by Malcolm Gladwell in how our notions of wealth and income inequality has changed in America.
The top rate, income tax rate, through the early 60s, through the Kennedy-Johnson tax cuts, and actually through the mid-50s or so, is I think 91% on incomes over 200,000. So that translates, that's roughly $2 million in today's terms. So what they're saying back then was, you can't make more than $2 million. Right? As a society, this country in the mid-50s said, you can't make, in today's dollars, you can't make more than $2 million. And what happened as a result of that? Well, I mean, America went through, first of all, its greatest period of economic growth ever. It was the unquestioned leader in the United States. The social fabric of this country was, with respect to income inequality, fine, right? I mean, you can't point to something that was wrong with America in the 1950s because they said you can't make more than $2 million, right? Now, what's amazing about this is if you even bring this up now, people don't even believe you that that was in place 50 years ago. Adam Goppigan at The New Yorker did this sort of town hall thing in so disastrous. Adam and I, so every now and again we do these things where we did it at the 92nd Street Y. Right? We get on stage and we like yap about stuff. Now, we're used to the 92nd Street Y, which is, all of you know what that audience is, right? I'm sure it's a lot like the audience here. So at the 92nd Street Y, you can talk about how taxes in 1950 were 90%, and you can talk about whether that was, what that meant and blah, blah, blah. So we were invited to do a similar kind of thing in Naples, Florida. I did not know that Naples, Florida, I thought Naples, Florida was a kind of extension of the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side. How wrong I was. So here we are up on stage, me and Adam. We forget that, it's like, and we bring this up, and people started hissing. I mean, we practically hurled their kind of dinner buns at us. I mean, it was like, and we was like, wait a minute, we didn't make this up. This happened. Here was a room full of kind of Republican retired millionaires, right? Yeah. Their parents paid that kind of tax rate. And maybe they were upset about it, but they didn't form a tea party and jump up and down about how they were being turned into socialists. They understood that their country had given them and had made an enormous contribution to them, had made it possible for them to succeed. They also understood that their country had incurred certain obligations that had to be paid for, and that as the wealthiest people in the country, they were the ones best positioned to help pay for that. And by the way, $2 million is a lot of money, right? You can actually live a nice life on $2 million, right? It's only today that we have completely abandoned all sense of proportion. And, you know, people like, this is the most extraordinary quote. It was from Stephen Schwarzman, the private equity. Who remembers this? This is a guy who made about, I don't know, $1 billion last year. And remember, because, and my accountant is here, he can correct me if I'm wrong. Don, correct me if I'm wrong. Stephen Schwarzman pays capital gains on his money because he says the money he takes out of his investment pool is capital gains and not income, so he pays 15% and not 40%, right? When there was some move in Congress to raise that, to make him pay normal taxes, right? Remember, he compared it either to Kristallnacht or the Nazi invasion of Poland, which is, by the way, the most obscene thing ever to come out of anyone on Wall Street's mouth in the last 10 years. And by the way, the bar is really high for most obscene thing, right? That is how, when people are saying that with a straight face, you realize that we're completely off the rails, right? I feel like I want to put him in a time machine, move him back to 1955, and sit down with him as he files his tax return. I think that would just be, I would pay $1 billion for that privilege.
And because the income distribution in the United States is so unequal and lopsided, it's very hard to grab in a single graphic. This short video will make the numbers more real.
Welcome to the L curve. This is a graph of the income distribution of the United States. Picture the population of the United States lined up on a football field, with the poorest person on the far left and the richest person on the far right. The vertical scale on this graph is income, represented by stacks of $100 bills. Let's zoom in and look at the family on the 50-yard line. The median income in the United States, the middle income, is about $40,000. That would be a stack of $100 bills about 1.5 inches high. The majority of Americans lie along the horizontal branch of this graph. It's a long, gradual ramp from essentially zero at the far left to $100,000 at the 95-yard line. $100,000 would be a stack of $100 bills 4 inches high. At the 99-yard line, the graph rises to about 1 foot. This represents an income of about $300,000. When we get to the top 1/3 of 1%, 1 foot from the goal line, we hit the $1 million mark. $1 million is a stack of $100 bills 1 meter high. 1 meter is about 40 inches. From there, the graph rises sharply. As we zoom out, we see a tree on the left. This is the height of the giant sequoias, a pretty good picture of what $100 million looks like. The height of this frame is 1 kilometer, a little over half a mile. A stack of $100 bills 1 kilometer high would be $1 billion. Remember that a billion is 1,000 times a million. A kilometer is 1,000 meters. If 1 meter represents $1 million, a kilometer would be $1 billion. There are about 400 billionaires in the United States. It's hard to talk about income at this level because this kind of wealth doesn't come every month in a paycheck. This is almost entirely investment income. Most people make money based on their labor, but money makes money in our economy far more efficiently than what can be earned from labor. As we continue to zoom, we see there is a mountain behind us. The sequoias don't grow in Nepal, but this mountain represents the height of Mount Everest. It's a good picture of what $10 billion looks like. We come now to the top of the stratosphere and the top of our graph. At the 50-kilometer mark, we see Bill Gates' greatest increase in net worth in 1 year. His overall wealth rises and falls with the stock market, but was reputed to be about $100 billion at one point. Other families have comparable wealth. The Walmart fortune, for instance, is shared by several members of the Walton family, but their total wealth is even greater than the Microsoft fortune. As we zoom back in, try to take it all in. The next time some politician talks about tax cuts, ask yourself whose taxes are being cut and at whose expense.